These are all the real food ingredients that provide your body everything it needs to build size and muscle. Now, let's get it faster. Flex Food is 46 real food ingredients on demand for real muscle building meals and real results fast.
Scott Welch, Muscle Insider Magazine. I'm here with a huge array of guests here. We've got the IFBB, what do we call you? Hall of Famer? We call you like what? Shawn Ray, I mean, no introduction is really needed. Ian Bell, brand director for Mutant, and the Mutant CEO, Jim McMahon. How are you guys doing today?
Excellent.
Cool.
Looks like we are going to be talking about the evolution of the MRP. Now, back in the day, obviously, Shawn, you were with Weider at the time, and there was a big push on with Bob Paris and the dynamic muscle builder. Later on, we obviously saw Weider come out with some of the other pieces here with, what is this? The sports meal. And then, but the whole movement really, to me, started with the Metarex era. And that was with Dr. Scott Connolly and Bill Phillips. They kind of looked at the market and came out with the very first packets. The packets were really essential. Had a great, I mean, we can look at one of the early ads here, obviously showing it always looked delicious. And then they had an amazing spokesmodel in Lila Brada, one of the best at the time. Now let's just go through, obviously they had that whole camp happening with EAS and Muscle Media 2000 magazine, and that really set the table with this new category that was created. But you were over at Weider, Shawn, at the time, and they really weren't into it too far at that time. What was going on at the Weider camp as you as an athlete when this trend was starting?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was with Weider along with Lila Brada. I remember it clearly in 1991-ish that Scott Connolly's name came into the fray. By 92, Jeff Everson was talking and bringing up Scott Connolly, and then Bill Phillips. And then in 93, the first year I beat Lila Brada, is when I heard that they were going to start a new company, Metarex. And Labrada, Bill Phillips, Scott Connolly, Darren Mead, and Jeff Everson were the core people behind Metarex. And they were pretty smart, because what Metarex did is when they, I don't know, is it Metarex or Metarex? You all say it differently. They were smart. They built a gym right here, a stone's throw away from where I'm at here in Costa Mesa. I did the grand opening. I met, Mark McGuire was there. His brother, who was his trainer, was there. Jose Canseco was there. Metarex was trying to bring in people outside of bodybuilding to be a part of this. And this meal replacement thing wasn't something that Joe Weider was forcing his athletes to take. I think he created something, put it into his lineup of products. Some athletes took it, some athletes didn't. But Metarex was solely focused on this meal replacement, which was more than just protein. It was like you don't have to eat a meal. You can drink this meal instead of having your meal and drinking a protein drink. This was a meal replacement, and it really was marketed and advertised as kind of a first of its kind. Even though Joe had tried to do it, I don't think he put the marketing dollars behind it. I don't think he had the focus on it, whereas Metarex was clearly focused on that. They actually approached me to be a part of it. I just beat Lila Brada. I come off a third place at the Mr. Olympia in 1990. I didn't want to leave Joe because it was a package deal. It was products and magazine publishing. And to leave Joe, I'm going to walk into this unknown supplement business with these characters that didn't have the experience behind promoting supplements, or I was going to stay comfortably with Joe Weider and watch and find out whether or not I could beat Dorian Yates and have it all. I wanted to have it all. I think I had made the right decision by staying, but nonetheless, Metarex came on with a marketing campaign that put them on the map. And I actually trained at that gym while being sponsored by Joe Weider. And until my retirement, 2001, my last Olympia, I was training at Metarex gym, and it changed a little bit. But I think Bill Phillips was the key behind it. Although the science behind it was Dr. Scott Connolly, Bill Phillips had a marketing strategy for that, which then created EAS and the Myoplex, which was very similar. And I got to witness kind of both sides, like with the Joe Weider side and the Scott Connolly side, because I trained in that gym. And it was the best move that Labrada could have ever made for himself, because there is where he was able to figure it all out and then launch his own line of products and do his own marketing. And I think all those guys that initially started, they all benefited from that relationship. I don't feel like the odd man out, because I was still hardcore into my bodybuilding and had a lot of years ahead of me as a competitor. And I really wasn't behind the science of the meal replacements. But I got to tell you, the Metarex and the Myoplex were very similar in terms of what they were designed to do in terms of meal replacement.
Now, going over to Jim, where were you at this time, obviously with PVL doing what you were doing, when you sort of saw the clash, you know, that you had the Myoplex that was there and you had EAS, obviously, or Metarex and Myoplex kind of going toe to toe on who would dominate this sort of space. What was happening in Mutant PVL world?
Well, for me, that would have been right around the 96 era when I started PVL. And from there, of course, that's where Mutant came from, was the PVL brand. But yeah, we saw this whole category and we're like, all right, protein powders, and there's more and more protein powders on the planet, and designer protein was cranking away for a few years already. But there was a smart aspect to the meal replacement. I mean, at the end of the day, why does somebody take a protein shake? Well, it's usually because there's a meal emergency happening. And we all know that you need more than just protein for your muscles and your metabolism. So it didn't, you know, this is coming from a guy who sells a lot of protein powder. So I'm not trying to be careful here, but it's just odd. Why aren't more people using meal replacement shakes, since that's what you need in the first place? Like when we're at a booth, you know, Shawn, Ron, Dusty, Shelby, Jamie the Giant, and I get to work with Andrea here pretty soon too. But the only reason why they're having a protein shake is because maybe they forgot a meal in their meal prep bag. And now we've all been playing with the new Mutant product that we got coming out, and it's more of a real meal. So it just makes more sense to have a meal, because that's what your body needs. Simple. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that come out, I was like, smart, very, very smart. So to watch it, meal replacements kind of went away there for a few decades, is what it felt like too. So we're happy to be bringing it back up. Yeah, going back then, you could just see this. It was an avalanche. Like, every brand had their meal replacement back then, like Sport Pharma, AST Research. Everybody had one, and so we had to have one too. So PVL obviously had one in 1996 with MyoRx was our first one, and then became MyX40, and then it became MyXL. We even had a $250,000 challenge back then. I think it was 98 or 99. We had Sharon Bernot on board for that one. We had a blast doing all those kinds of things. But yeah, the category, underserved these days, but it was a rock star back then. So I'm happy to see them coming back.
Now, when we look at this, I mean, this hit everywhere. It wasn't just hitting here. I mean, I talked to Stephen Adelaide at the time, who did the international for EAS, and they set up and bought a manufacturing facility in Germany to manufacture Myoplex and different supplements over there, which is kind of funny now when you look at the industry, and a lot of the US brands are looking to manufacture in Europe for Europe, when EAS was doing this, you know, in the late 90s, you know. Now, Ian, obviously in Canada, this obviously was dominant as well, with EAS doing what they did. And it just seemed like everywhere you turned, you saw Myoplex, Betadrin, HMB. Like, it just seemed to be like there was nothing that they could launch that wasn't dominant. And you were helping them with launching the RTDs and really taking that on-the-go nutrition to the next level. Can you tell me a bit about the experiences of EAS here in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, it was an avalanche. I mean, success like everywhere else. And they have, you know, like many brands that have to come to Canada, they use a distributor. So, you know, that distributor back in the day was, you know, kind of the golden child, because they had EAS in Canada. So anything else that they had to do, or any other brands they had, you know, EAS was sort of the golden, you know, the golden goose there that they would use to get other distribution and other products. And you couldn't just buy the superhero Metarex. You had to go and buy, like you mentioned, other products like HMB, Betadrin, and things like that. So yeah, EAS went through a huge surgeons here, and then to the point they got so big they left their distributor and started their own entity in Canada. They had their own, you know, satellite office with a whole bunch of people that, you know, we all know, and that continued. And then the big sale happened to Abbott Pharmaceuticals, the big pharmaceutical giant that makes Ensure, and they took on EAS. not really being experts in sports nutrition, and a lot of that authenticity and agility and the ability to market and things like that sort of disappeared. But they went strong, and to Shawn's point, they really went hard after athletes as well. Some of the old NFL guys, Larry Fitzgerald, Vernon Davis, Matt Hasselbeck, Brady Quinn was part of the big campaign. If you use muscles, use Myoplex. They always thought that was smart. And they transitioned. They really went hard after food, drug, mass accounts like, the Walmarts and the Shoppers Drug Marts of the world. And yeah, they converted from their little tetras and sachets to what we see today in the little screw bottles. And now, ultimately Abbott has just disappeared with EAS. They just basically fizzled it out completely, right? Which is really sad. I think they thought that Ensure and Myoplex, the lines were blurring, and that they wanted to control that protein market in adult nutrition. And yeah, that was the demise. But what a ride, and a successful product that like Jim said, it's just weird that it just sort of, it disappeared with the low carb craze, which I think you're going to touch on too. Like everyone all of a sudden became afraid of 10 grams of carbs, like ridiculous. But
yeah, I worked at Mesotech at the time, and we had the whole Mesotech campaign, and we tried 57 grams of just straight whey isolate. We tried reducing that to 52. We tried everything we could. But one of the things that was interesting, and I see this, some of the parallels to what we'll be talking about a little bit later, is we tried just using whey isolate. One of the problems with that is you get hungry within a couple of hours when you just eat isolate. And one of the magics that was originally in the metamyosin protein that was in Metarex was the multi sources of protein, that time release at different rates. And Myoplex did the exact same thing. It gives it a creamy flavor, but it also, you're getting that coagulation in the stomach, you're getting that sort of slower release. And the idea of this, that why it would work, was you felt full. And I don't know how many times people would put a whey isolate in a shaker and say, hey, this is the fast absorbing. And then they felt like they just drank a glass of water. They didn't feel any sustenance from it. And I feel like that's one of the things that was lost when everyone went with the low carb movement to just whey, and then it became just whey isolate. It's like that one thing was forgotten, that it was this balance of, carbs, fats, and proteins, not excessive carbs, not excessive fats. It was just almost this balance of proper ratios of carbs, fats, proteins.
I was just going to say that, there's almost like back then we didn't know exactly what to eat. There was not this familiarity with what macros are and all those types of things. It was just like, here's this perfectly packaged, engineered nutrition, right? That was Metarex.
That's right.
Here's that perfectly packaged meal. Take this and you'll be muscular. This is all you need for muscles. Whereas now, there's such a big thing with food prep. Everyone knows that. Am I hitting my macros? That's a common thing in our vernacular now. Everyone knows what that means. So now it's almost more relevant than ever. Man, people are taking their time to make 6 meals on a Sunday, packing them all up. A meal is a meal is a meal, where I don't think back then everyone just thought, oh man, this is what you need to take muscles, make muscles. Protein wasn't really understood at the same level.
Yeah. The time release aspect was totally lost. Again, we appreciate all the consumers who buy protein powder, but yeah, it's exiting the gut almost too fast. They're great recovery products, no question. But I used to talk with a lot of the hardcore personal trainers who are training bodybuilders for competition, and most of the trainers are putting guys on meal replacements or micellar casein, something that was a little bit more metabolically inducing than just straight whey. So, and wouldn't not to keep plugging our product, but that's exactly what we've done. We've gone back to a balanced blend, because just using a single source, hey, you're just taking a protein powder and dressing it up like a meal replacement. And that's not what we're doing here ourselves. It's quite unique.
Now, one of the things that sort of I really like about the way the industry has kind of gone is science has evolved quite a bit. Back then, maltodextrin, we just thought that was amazing as a glucose polymer, and this is going to help us with recovery. And now we sort of see that maltodextrin, it is a great additive to some of these ingredients, but we obviously realize that having multiple sources of carbohydrates, there are advantages to that. The whole glycemic control that was sort of just becoming popularized in the 90s of using insulin efficiently. And, you had some good stories about Danny Hester before this interview with that. But I feel like what I'm excited to sort of learn a bit more about with Flex Food from Mutant is, how did you guys look at the evolution? Because you could have just went back to Jim McMahon's archives with Metarex and sort of said, okay, let's just knock that off. But obviously that's not the goal here. It's to sort of get a 2022 spin on something that's kind of been lost in the bodybuilding sports nutrition arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, again, this was really simple. This was a product built because of demand. Like, people weren't specifically calling us and then saying, hey, we want this kind of product, but you can just see this. Like, we're all using protein shakes because meal emergencies happen. All right, so why rely just on protein? Shouldn't we all be taking in something that's got more than just protein, for crying out loud? All right, so how about we do that? So let's engineer a product. And we didn't set out to design something that ended up like, we didn't say, oh, it's got to have all this and this and this in it. It was like, no, what's a good macro meal look like? And that's how we built it. We built it from a meal on out. Like, half a chicken breast is 25 grams of protein. You build out your bodybuilding meal based on your protein, then you start stacking other things. It's exactly how we did Flex Food. Started with a protein matrix, made it from multiple sources, so you get the metabolic advantage that you don't normally get from whey protein. So you have that, and then we just expanded it out, and it turned into 46 real food ingredients. That wasn't by design. It wasn't the target we were after, but that's just how it happened. So it is really that simple, but it was fun to make, and it took us a little while, obviously.
Yeah, and I know I was going to say, sorry, I know, Shawn, when I think early on, as you know, it's always the question for an old bodybuilder: tell us what you eat, or what do you eat?
Yeah.
And I always think it's funny how, you would harp on stuff like, guys, you're not going to get fat from fruit and toast. Right? Yeah,
it's not going to make you fat.
Yeah. I thought that, that rings true today. Like, you get all these trainers and, oh, you can't eat your fruit and this, and then, they'll put, creamer in their coffee and all this stuff.
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. But just going back quickly to Flex Food too. I mean, there's such an understanding too on foundational health, right? It's not just protein and things. So what I think stepped outside the box with Flex Food on, despite, it has its essential fats, it has carbs, it has protein, of course, but then there's other stuff that we talk about when you get into stores. They're trying to sell you, probiotics, and no one's taking enough greens. So this gives you a start on greens with fruits and vegetables, fiber, good fats. So it actually goes more, I think, further than the old MRPs used to, where it was just, here's your proteins and things. And I think they would throw a lot of vitamins in there. But this, for instance, got like 80% of your vitamin C from real fruits and vegetables. So this actually goes a lot further into, man, this is really a complete meal on the go.
It's a one-stop shop. And at the end of the day, if you don't offer it, like Jim said, it kind of disappeared. But if it's not being offered, the athletes don't know it even exists. So, we would have a hard time bringing back the 8-track player, because then you got to make the 8 tracks. Then you got to make the player for it to play, and then you got to get distribution for all of that. This isn't reinventing the wheel, what we're talking about here. We're just making it available again with a little bit more flavor into it. And the thing about it is, some people, they're not going to take something that tastes like crap. I'm sorry, maybe once or twice. I don't care how healthy it is. If it tastes like crap, you're not going to get me back there to keep throwing this down my throat. I remember when these products were first being made, when I first started out in the 80s, it was like, smell like rotten eggs. You have to plug your nose and drink this crap. I mean, you can only do that for so long. But if you make something that's palatable, that has all the right ingredients in it, and does what it says on the label, you're likely to go back and implement that. I remember Dexter Jackson towards the end of his career was telling me that he could only eat 3 times a day. Like, think about that. A Hall of Fame bodybuilder, a former Mr. Olympia, 9-time Arnold Classic champion, towards the end of his career, could only consume 3 meals a day. And like Jim said, all right, you drank your protein, now what? Your body still needs all the other stuff. Yeah. So to have the complete meal replacement, you can get away with 3 meals a day. Have 3 drinks a day, and you're not going to lose ground on the competition. Yeah. So I know I've heard from a lot of people, as soon as we started advertising this, how do I get it? Where is it at? Let me try it. And a lot of times when you have a new product, or that's what's old is new again, people flock to it. And it's just about exposure. I think Bill Phillips and the guys, they cornered the market because they created a magazine to get the exposure out to the masses so that people were aware that it existed. And they had some nice little marketing strategies. This is something that this is not reinventing the wheel. Those guys sold out of the market, took their money and disappeared, and the products disappeared with them. Jim's been here for an awful long time. So to provide that product again for the new jacks that didn't even know anything about it, that didn't know that this could actually exist, this can be a very good game changer for some of the athletes that can't get but 3 meals in a day.
Yeah. Now, Jim, you've obviously known globally as the Mutant Mass company. Obviously, amongst other things, we've got the All In, which where the heck is my bottle? I got it right here. There we go. The All In pre-workout that's here, and there's been some other great hits. But how does this differ from obviously Mutant Mass?
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for mentioning that we're globally known as Mutant.
Worldwide. Yes.
The one and only Mutant company out there.
Worldwide.
A lot of registered trademarks. You know what I'm saying, everybody. All right, moving on to our show today. Yeah, Mutant Mass. Well, hey, same thing. The torch was only handed off to me from the giants who roamed the earth before I did in the supplement industry. The gainers were there. The gainers went down. 2005, we resurrected, we think, because we've been told many times by a lot of people that we helped resurrect that product category, and we're damn proud of that legacy. So if we're fortunate enough to have all the things come together again in our lifetime, then maybe Flex Food becomes that next passing of the torch and blows up like Mutant Mass did. But yeah, everything we've learned about Mutant Mass over the years, and again, we've evolved that formula over the years a little bit as well. And we took all of those things and we took all the things that should stay in a gainer, but not necessarily be in more of a metabolic muscle meal. And that's what I always liked about Metarex and Myoplex and Lee Labrada's product, of course, Lean Body. Can't be on a podcast without mentioning Lee as well. So those things are good metabolic muscle meals, but we want to just put way more real food ingredients into the product, because what are we all eating? Like when I'm sitting there chatting with Ron every so often, I said, Ron, what's the one thing you kind of miss about competitive bodybuilding? He says, well, the one thing I don't miss is chicken and rice 6 times a day.
Right.
So the idea for the product was, okay, well, let's get the macro equivalent of chicken and rice. We'll take it down on the carbs, but we'll just start layering more food ingredients. And we layered in the Athlete's Probiotic DE111, which we've got 3 or 4 years of experience on that ingredient under our belt. So we think we have a unique concoction here that's more than just the engineered foods. It's bringing back the engineered foods with balanced nutrition and doing it, boom, with 46 real food ingredients. And then boom, putting it all in one convenient package.
Isn't it? I mean, that's the cycle of life too, because you have the advantage of hindsight. I mean, what they did back then is they had to work within the parameters of what was available. Now we have these years in between where this technology is advanced, the science is advanced. There's things you're able to do today that we could have never thought of back then. And that's the circle of life and the science of life, which is why when I say what's old is new again, that happens because people like Jim have the foresight to look at what was, put some shine on it and make it available again. And let's see what happens with these athletes. We're going to see some game-changing physiques and people that are going to be implementing this into their programs again, because it just wasn't existing.
I think it's great too, because I mean, talking to pro bodybuilders, and obviously, Shawn, you've got the most insight into this with the network you have. They kind of go away from the gainers a little bit. You know, they want sort of, maybe they'll take a half a serving or they'll take a third of a serving. But I think that this is the problem with that is maybe it's low in protein for what they're trying to do. If you just cut the serving down to a third, but by having a MRP like this, that's high in protein and is a complete meal, I think that this will get some of the pro bodybuilders into the Mutant brand that may have not tried it because it was Mutant Mass. And, you know, some of them think gainers make me gain fat and I got to keep lean in the off season. But this could be another sort of avenue for that elite competitive bodybuilder.
There's no question. I mean, today's bodybuilders are looking more closely at what they're putting in their bodies. Back in the day, like you said, we're eating chicken and rice because we know the benefits of chicken and rice. So more must be better. But there's this diminishing return on that next meal is going to be chicken and rice. It's like, But now you have a situation where you can get away with, if you're especially in the bulking phase, if you can slam 5 or 6 meals in a day and get in 2 or 3 meal replacements. You're going to bring your calories up. You're going to have this complete meal. Everybody digests differently. So when I say 5 or 6 meals, some people might think that is incredibly hard to do. But for me, the waking bodybuilder at 5 a.m. who wakes up in the middle of the night to eat again, it's not a lot of food. Yeah. I was programmed to eat it 6, 9, 12, 6, 9, 12 to get this food in my system every 3 hours, just to have this balance, this maintenance. And on the way up to gain weight, you've got to set your clock to the hour of which you think your body can absorb these calories, absorb this food. And like Dexter said, as he was aging out, he couldn't get those meals in, and it was easier to drink them. Unfortunately for Dexter, our product came along at the end of his career. He missed the wave. But again, this is something that people that are coming into the game are going to have a great advantage of, because there are some athletes that were that benefited very greatly from the EAS and the Myoplex and the Metarex meal replacement. So I'm just glad this is back on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of call it, Jim and I call it, it's food on demand, right? And I mean,
food on demand is excellent.
Convenient nutrition has taken such a precedent. I mean, everyone's busy. Getting a full meal, I hate to say it, like out of a bar, it honestly probably exist at the top levels. It's just not quite enough. So that's, that is a convenient snack. But to have something like this, we do it in a sachet or a bag, for home. The bag is actually convenient to travel with too. But to have it on demand, it's easy to get water and ice, throw it and keep your shaker around. And I think, Jim, you mentioned food emergencies, right? Not knowing, all of a sudden you stop for fast food and you've broken down your diet. So I mean, everyone does it, but to have these available in the car, in your briefcase, whatever on the go, is just a really nice thing for an athlete to have.
Yeah. And especially when they're trying to keep that metabolism part of their regime going. So, especially if you're in a diet phase, pre-diet phase, trying to lean out, whatever, or you don't want to go on the road and gain 10 pounds in the wrong area by being on the road. It's better to have not just a protein shake. The proteins just aren't activating a metabolism as high as a blend, like an MRP that's got multiple sources of proteins and fibers and other things going on in there. So there is a true difference between this and just another protein powder. There's no question.
Yeah, and what didn't exist back when I was coming up was the word vegan, right? I didn't hear about people that have all these food allergies and all of that other crap. This is for everybody, so that's another advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of the distribution of this, I mean, I can't really bring up a story on the Mutant brand without talking about you being what's called vertically integrated. So you're manufacturing your own product. Is this product going to be, you guys are in over 100 countries, but are we going to see this in Europe? Are we going to see this? I did think I saw a preview at FIBO. I think there was a box that was sort of in the booth, but are we going to see this in the Mutant network into all over the world?
In one word, yes. 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 Of course. We don't do it any other way, baby. There's only one way, the Mutant way.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's going everywhere quick. It's actually we did start shipping the full marketing, kind of starts next week, but we've been teasing this since the Arnold, really. I know you did a piece on it, Stack did a piece on it.
Yeah.
We haven't really wanted to make it a secret. The more noise, the better. We're bringing back MRPs in a big way. Fast food with attitude, we like to say it. And it'll be fully available, and I think received well. There's a hole in that space right now. There's a couple people doing meal replacements, but not quite
yeah. Hey, Scott, if I could just talk on that just for a second.
Yeah.
We did. You've been to our facility, our lab, where we do all the mixing and everything. And me, we'll buy competitors' products just so we know what the lay of the land is. We just want to know what's already going on out there. We don't want to crap on other people. So it's just like, hey, okay, well, this one worked well for this, but it didn't work so well for that, and yada, yada, yada. One of the side benefits that we stumbled on, this was not a preordained thought, but we stumbled on the side benefit because of the unique combination of proteins and fibers and the essential fats in there. we were finding we get to make more than just protein shakes with this thing. And yeah, you can use whey protein. You can take protein powders and add about 10 ingredients to them and come up with a new recipe for a food. But this one was a little bit more unique. We were able to add like 2, maybe 3 ingredients and actually make foods out of this protein powder as well. So it was not something we were looking to do. It's just a side benefit. And thank goodness we have 3 lovely ladies in our lab who are foodies, and they went to town playing with the finished powder. And they say, "Hey, Jim, look what we made." And I go, "You're kidding. This is going to be great." So yeah, there's going to be some added advantages, which they're going to be fun. They're just going to be fun to play with.
Very cool. Well, we're really excited about this one. I think you guys, I really was impressed by. I love the name. I love the look of it. I like the look of it in the original all-in sort of black and red look. Obviously matches with Shawn Ray's shirt over there with the red and black. You gotta like that. But good stuff. Well, listen, thanks so much for taking us through this. Obviously, really appreciate it. And Flex Food, when will we see this sort of in, on the IamMutant.com website for fans to pick up?
This weekend.
Oh,
So, I'm sure, Scott, you'll get the news, but yeah, we'll have it available online, and it is already shipping to some retailers. And the big noise will really start hitting. We had some fun videos coming and some real stuff to help educate. And actually, if you go on, this is actually very cool because we really are determined to be all things food prep. If you go on IamMutant.com or .ca now, you have access to an amazing cheat sheet on food prep, sort of an all food guide. It's a free give. So if you go on the website now, you click on it, you can download it. It's a really, really cool thing all about real food prep. It's not about flex food. It's about food prep, ways to, to build meals and macros. And there's a whole bunch of good stuff. So anyone wants a free give, 100% go on the website now. You can grab that.
And there's some more too over on the YouTube channel. So we launched a new show, which is actually an old show we brought back. It's the Mutant Lab Report. We now call it the No BS Mutant Lab Report. Nice. And Ron and I have done 2 or 3 segments, not necessarily talking about flex food itself, but true, we're coming back to the roots of the problem here. It was meal prep. Like, what's a real emergency? What's the number one challenge facing people in the gym? It's a lot of people showing up to the gym, but then they're not showing up and doing their meal prep, or maybe they're skipping a meal. I'm like, why would you go to the gym just to skip a meal later? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, so go all in on your effort. Well, that means making sure your food's topped up. So again, go to YouTube. You can check out the Mutant Lab Report, and you'll see a couple of segments on just meal prep.
Okay, last one now, Shawn. I mean, every time I go on your Instagram, I see you're at this fancy restaurant. We got lobster tails. We got like steaks being turned.
Where am I at today?
How is the taste on this product? I mean, what does it taste like?
So that's the thing. I had mentioned earlier, there's some things that you'll take for nutritional benefit. The chicken and rice was a staple in my career. On the other hand, when I started bodybuilding, I was drinking some yellowy, rotten egg, Beverly International, something. Man. I hate to mention names. I think we all know what that is, right? But again, to each his own when it comes to taste and flavor. But you're not going to take something that doesn't taste good for very long. So this is where I think we're going to have an advantage in this market, because not only does it taste good, but it benefits you nutritionally, and that's very important to the bodybuilder, to the connoisseur. You're talking to a retired bodybuilder. So I don't have to drink this if I don't want to drink it. It doesn't have to be a part of my staple. But I'm good with 2 meals a day. I know that the FDA requires you to eat 3 squares a day, right? So although I'm not bodybuilding, I still want to be healthy. I still need my protein. I still don't want to be in the kitchen cooking all day. Listen, as a bodybuilder, I cook 6-7 times a day. Cooking is the last thing I look forward to actually doing. My favorite meal of the day is breakfast. My eggs, my oatmeal, my fresh fruit, my toast, my coffee. That's like working out to me. It's like breathing oxygen for me. It doesn't change with the seasons. But as the day wears on, I don't look forward to getting in the kitchen and rattling pots and pans to try to come up with a concoction that's going to be nutritionally sound. So this meal replacement is one of those things where you don't have to think about it. It doesn't taste bad. It goes in good. It comes out good. Some things you got to be, if you have a sensitive stomach. No, there's a lot of people with sensitive stomachs. Listen, there's some things I don't eat because in my mind, I think it might upset my stomach. A couple of things that come to mind, which might be the flavor of the day to you: oysters, snails, crab, anything. Those things don't appeal to me, and I'm not interested. Even lamb, but to some people, they eat that every day. Chris Cormier eats that all the time. It's his favorite thing to eat. But for me, I just feel like it might come out wrong. It might sit wrong. So we got to be very careful sometimes when we drink something new, because we're going to be concerned of how our body's going to absorb it and how it's going to excrete it. This is like water. This isn't something that leaves a bad aftertaste. It's not something you can drink and feel is going to upset your stomach. So that's the most important thing for me, being a Virgo who's very particular about what I eat and what I drink. Sorry, I got a call coming in.
No worries, no worries. And just hold on, Ian. Just to clarify, there is no lamb, no clam, no oysters in Flex Food.
Thank God.
And to your original question to Shawn, who loves his food in restaurants, he may or may not have last been seen with Team Mutant at Mastro's Steakhouse on Figueroa in Los Angeles.
That was a good choice. Yes,
it was a good choice and good steaks.
Well, I think the last sighting might have been the Palm. With us?
The Palm. See, Ian's got a very short memory, but I can tell you unequivocally, as someone who's had to try products, Scott, for the better part of 40 years, I've tasted them all. I've tried them all. It includes Myoplex and Metarex and all that stuff. This was a good play right here. I think Jim took his time in mixing the formulas right. So this isn't something that you're going to go back. It tastes like crap. Not to me. And I'm very particular about what I drink or what I eat.
Yeah. And just to set the table really even more poignantly, I like to say internally, these, because of the 46 real food ingredients are in there, these aren't exactly like your typical milkshake, but you know what? These taste more like cake. So if you like cake, you're good with this.
I haven't had a Mutant product I've ever thought didn't taste great. So I'm excited to try this. Even like Madness, doesn't matter what it is. It's always... Jim just takes so much time on that flavoring and a little hint of this, a little hint of that. Like it's
yeah, you guys, you've been with me in the lab a few times. What is he talking? A little pinch, you need a little pinch of this, a little pinch of that.
A mad scientist. No, taste is important, especially when it comes to me, and I it's got my stamp of approval.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yep. Okay, guys. Well, listen, thanks again for your time today, and we're looking forward to the launch of Flex Food.
Boom.
These are all the real food ingredients that provide your body everything it needs to build size and muscle. Now, let's get it faster. Flex Food is 46 real food ingredients on demand for real muscle building meals and real results fast.